three elements. I hope it was recording all through. So no, I meant that when you create one story, right, it can have maximum 5 videos or pictures. So I was saying that 5 is the maximum. User can choose to upload only 2 videos as a part of their story. That's fine.
Oh, from his gallery, he can choose only 2 videos.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Got it.
So, yeah, okay. So we talked about few things that we can optimize in this section, right? How to have an additional layer that will do the split. So, and also the client side features we want. So talking about the sequencing, yeah.
I think the upload API will itself check the file size and stop it if the file length, file size or anything.
Sure.
Similar to when we try to upload some passport picture, right? Yeah. And if the picture is greater than some MB, it will automatically reject.
Right. Yeah. So that's taken care of there about the file size.
So I have another question. I don't want to hijack this thread, but if you feel we can address this later, feel free to say so. I'm trying to get a picture of the end-to-end thing before splitting these services into various components. So what we said is that first we are going to upload 5 pictures or 5 videos or whatever it is under one story, and we have a unique ID generator. Maybe we don't need that unique ID generator, but let's go with that first. So your database will have one unique ID. It will have 5 rows, let's say. Each row will have this unique ID repeated 5 times, and then another column will have the video or the picture. And then the reader or the consumer, when their app comes up, they are going to poll this database and say, select star from this database.
Actually, it's not that straightforward, right? If you think about the holistic design, high level, the way I think about that is, and I think that's a good point, right? I started diving into each feature. Maybe having a holistic view would help. But what I had in mind here for the holistic view was that, so let me show here. So when user uploads a story, right, it has 5 elements bound to a story. Now, when another user comes online, and let's call this user 1 and the other user is user 2, right? And let's say they are in contact list, like they are friends, right? So user 1 has user 2 in his context list and vice versa. So when user 2 opens WhatsApp and they go to their status, they should see recent updates, user 1, a story thumbnail, that there is a story by user 1. So that means it is more like a follower model, like newsfeed kind of thing. There is no notifications here, but it is similar, right? Whosoever is in your contact list, you have to pull the stories of all those users, but only the ones which are only from the last 24 hours. So that's like, if you're talking about high level, I don't have it here.
So Dippy, in this case, right, you just created the first part of the story, right?
I just created first
we are
part.
not,
Yeah.
The second part is the consumer side, right?
Yes.
Who will actually listen to this and
where
is it stored and the publication of the new one. So that's a different flow.
That's a different thing, but I was just trying to answer like the other question, that what's the full story like? I am breaking it up into stories, but the full story is what I just mentioned. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a diagram for that, or should we draw that?
I do have a diagram for that. So I just wanted to maybe because otherwise every component requires, it's open for discussion. It gets very confusing. So that's where I broke it up here.
So this is the upload story.
This is just the upload story.
Or create.
Yeah. So any other questions or comments before we continue?
So when you do the chunking, right, so it will be like you will be splitting the files based on the bytes, right? So multiple bytes.
Yeah, some sizes, right? Like if I have whatever, you can say, let's say I'm uploading by 1 MB chunks, right? So as an example, so if let's say out of, I have 10 chunks and 7 got uploaded and then there is a network interruption, and let's say the network interruption goes away within few seconds, then I can just do a differential, right? That, okay, I have to resume from 8 now. I don't have to start from 1, something like that.
So this will be like you will be choosing some object storage to store all these chunks, right?
Yeah, that is coming late. Yeah, in the client side also, I'll be chunking, but also on the server side, I have the ideas about, okay, we should use object storage because these are big files, right? We can store links to them, but on the client side, it depends. If you're, I guess you're asking about client side as well, right? How are we storing these?
Yeah, both sides. Like when we chunk it, right, we need some metadata also to like stitch it all together when the user.
Yes. So we need a metadata. I don't have it here. I had it on the next slide, but yes, we need metadata. But I think on the client side, it's not like we'll create additional storage, right? If I have it on my cell phone, that's the storage I have, isn't it? Like we can't have any additional object storage for this, just like.
So you will be chunking on the client side and you will store those chunks on the client storage, you mean?
No, I have, now that you asked me this question, I am kind of opening it up. So when we chunk it, chunker, I'm thinking on the client side for sure, because otherwise the reason I'm having this is to save network bandwidth and to have the, resumable upload, right? Now, my question to everybody is that I don't have beyond this, like where are these chunks like stored? How is the file chunked? Where are the chunks kept? Maybe I think as I'm thinking aloud, that metadata service will create those, windows, like from this byte to this byte is chunk 1, from this byte to this byte is chunk 2. I think if I have that additional metadata service component, that should do it, isn't it?
So most of these chunks are stored in some CDN, right? Content delivery. So it will be stored outside, and the place where it is stored, the location and the ID will be stored in some place in the DB or something. So I'll give you an example, right? So out here, what happens is user will actually do an upload of V1, V2, P1, P3, and something.
Right.
So immediately the API will write to the database saying that I'm going to upload all this. And it will only just
database?
be...
Which database is it?
Any database. It can be any database. For now, I assume that it's MySQL.
No, I mean, where will be the database? User side? Like where will be the database hosted?
On the client, on the WhatsApp side.
That's the server, right?
Server side. And we could have a client side also if there's some application, but for now, let's assume it's at server side. And then the upload will start uploading. So once it uploads a chunk, it will upload the chunk and update that location in the server side. So all this, so at any point when it fails, so the client will have a thing to retry. So that's where chunker and encoders all coming into play to make sure that retry will work, and also to make sure that we optimize the bandwidth.
No, so a question there is that, let's say it fails at chunk 7 and there are 3 more to be uploaded. How does the client, is that the client metadata? Like how does it know which is chunk 8 and where do I have to retry? How does it know?
So supposing V1, V2 is uploaded. When we are at P1, our Wi-Fi got lost, right?
Yeah.
So next time when we start uploading it, or you change from one Wi-Fi to another Wi-Fi, right? So what it does is it will see that this with the same GUID or whatever is the GUID, that V1, V2, P1, V3, it has a generate GUID, right? GUID. And that is the same. Then it will retrieve the P1 itself.
No,
so that is at the client side.
No, that is, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going over this question again, but my question is not even to go over the sequence, right? Let's talk about just V1, right? Because I believe even a single video, this is the idea I had, that even for single video, you are splitting it up, right? You're breaking it up.
Let's say V1 has 10 chunks, right?
Yes, right. Yes.
So V1 has 10 chunks. At that 7th chunk, we had failed.
Yeah.
Right? Those 7 chunks is already uploaded.
Correct.
So when you get the network back,
Yes.
then it will say that I'm uploading the story and I had a network delay, and it will say that 7 is already done.
So
And
this
then
is
it will
something
start
from the
with
server. This is something from the server that it will get information that till 7 it's done. And now and the client, it will maintain. So on the client, it will maintain that I have 10 chunks somewhat, right? And
Yes.
this is what chunk
So the
1.
same ID.
Yeah.
So when we create the user ID, right?
Yeah.
The user ID and the client ID, it will actually create a temporary location in your client side.
Right.
And
Okay.
SQLite database, or I don't know, whatever is on the client
I
side,
see.
they will do
Yeah,
that.
that's what the question.
And then they will, then they will actually match if that ID and this ID is same. If you change the story, then ID will change, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So once you get the ID, so on your local browser side or client side, it will know that you are picking video 1, video 3 from your photos collection.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that will again retrieve from there.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I wasn't clear that what kind of additional storage we'll need on user side, but it seems like there will be a little bit of lightweight, storage we would need to keep this metadata and all this. So.
Yeah, all phones, right? If you go, every cell phone has an inbuilt database, SQLite database, which will actually use to optimize when you search or anything.
I see. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, sure.
So that will keep track of photos.
Intermediate information.
Yeah, and your application will keep track of some kind of tracking mechanism, and it will coordinate with the server side IDs and everything.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
To optimize.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thanks.
In the other way also, you can do upload whenever you are creating a story, right? You upload all the videos or photos, all this thing to nearby CDN. Okay, so that CDN link will be sent back to the application server. The application server will get all the content from that CDN. So it will be also fast.
But I was also trying to be careful, right? Here I'm only showing one user, right? Imagine there are like millions of users who are posting or thousands of users posting a story. So we also have to take care of sequencing, because if I just do a bulk, like sort of, CDN is hosting videos and pictures, which story do they belong to? Which user do they belong to? What's their timestamp?
Yeah,
what's their sequence?
so the sequence, the flow go like this. Whenever user want to upload videos or photos, okay, so it will connect to the application server. Application server will be send a redirect URL, okay, signature URL. That URL is the connecting to the nearby CDN, okay. So user will be upload that video using that signature URL to nearby CDN. Then that signature URL, right, it's unique for that storage you have created, okay. So that is used for uniqueness, further identify user is uploading this signature URL on this video, and that is used of later on by the application server to refer to that content.
Okay. So what I gathered from your design here is there is a bunch of CDN, right, that you're trying to talk about in terms of optimizing. Yeah, geographically, basically, you're optimizing that. That's fine. But this kind of design, right, where you're storing in database, the sharding, what I have, and the sequencing, that would still remain, right? That is still to be taken care of.
Yeah, this will be taken care of as a metadata, all these things. And the real video will be taken care of in the nearby CDN. From there, all the pre-processing, right? You are doing set pre-processing all this data, right? So that will be done from there, that video itself. Like thumbnail generation or encryption.
No, but you are putting everything in CDN. That CDN will do everything. I'm not sure CDN will do everything. How will it do sequencing?
CDN will be keep it as a temporary, not will not doing on processing part. Processing will be done with the application server, but CDN will be keep all the raw data, like all the
right.
Yeah, will be keep it there. That's fine. CDN, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
data will never go anywhere else other than CDN, even in Google or anything. It will always, what will happen is only backend, you'll only store the location of the CDN. That's it. So whatever you originally we designed, right? After chunker and encoder, we'll have an application. An application will upload that to video and pictures. And wherever you have WhatsApp app, that is the WhatsApp CDN.
Right.
And the CDN locations will be updated to the backend somewhere.
Okay. So where that data is hosted, basically you're posting links to that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, symlinks. Yeah.
Got it.
So,
got it. Yeah, so that makes sense. So
and those CDNs are replicated geographically so that people who are seeing it in India or anywhere else in the world, that will be easily visible.
Optimized.
And that CDNs will again be wiped out in 24 hours if there's have time limit or anything.
I think those
so it's like a temporary.
Yeah, those CDN links will be, that is another thing to talk about, right? So let's hold on to that thought about, deleting those. But just to complete this part here, I'm not keeping a tap on the time. But so basically one other thing I want people's input is like sharding by user ID, right? So for example, I'm thinking when another person in my contact list comes in, so if I were to retrieve my story and all the elements of my story, then maybe this is a good design, but of course there can be alternatives. But I think, are we okay with everybody good with, even you can ignore the shard part here for now, but everybody good overall with, the additions that we talked about, CDNs, application layer? Is this a reasonable thing to go after, or any other feedback before we move on to the...
Deepi, we can go to the next section and come back if we need it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is very convoluted. I'll speak to it. So what I'm talking about is the second feature here. So let's say I posted a story, and now somebody in my context list comes, opens WhatsApp, they go to status, and they want to see my name there, and that's all. I'm right now not talking about playing the story. It's just about viewing updates, right? So that's the feature I'm thinking. So what I have here is, I'll walk you through it. So I have 3 users here, right? C1 is, I'm thinking of contact. So this is my table somewhat. So I have user 1 has these people in my these people as the contact list, and user 2. I was a little concerned because if WhatsApp has 100 million users, is this something, is this the right way to store it? But for now, I'm going with that, right? I can distribute it, all of that. But as a very simple design, I thought I'll have something like this, user and the contact ID list. And let's say each of these 3 users posted a WhatsApp story, and 2 user story went to this shard, and the contact one, that user story went to this shard, right? Right now I'm going with the design where I sharded by user ID. Now I have an observer or a watcher component, which will basically watch these databases. So let me take a step back. What I'm thinking is that when you open WhatsApp and you go to recent updates, you don't want to contact this table, generate the list of my updates at that time, because to minimize the latency, right? So I'm trying to use a kind of a pre-generated, update list. That's the idea I'm going with. And to that end, my thought was, okay, as soon as stories are uploaded, there is a background process, right? This observer or watcher component, which is watching all these shards, right? And there will be multiple copies of this watcher, not a single one. So it's more like an observer pattern. So I'm watching all these shards. And if I find any update, right, then there is another component called recent update builder. It notifies that. And what that does is, this is more like a flowchart connector here I'm using. So this one is going to refer to this table, key value store, which is maintaining which users has which other users in the contact list. So it will contact that. and it will generate this kind of queue, right? Per user, if I think about having a sort of a queue, then I'm maintaining this, right? Let's say user 1 posted a story and user 1 has C1 and U2 in their contact list. So U2 user's timeline or the feed will have this entry in it, right? And then the other part is, now let's say U2 comes online, right? Opens WhatsApp. So their timeline is ready to be viewed, right? It just needs to be read from this queue. But one concern that we can say is that we only want to see last 24 hours. So let's say user 1 posted a story today and user 2 opened the status 2 days later, right? Then they should not be seeing user 1 story because it is gone, it is expired. So I also want to remove entries from this queue, right? Periodically. So for that, I thought I will have a queue monitor that will, try to monitor this queue and flush any entries which are expired. And then I'll have a user side metadata because I don't want to hit. All this is, I'm thinking, happening in the background, right? So that this is kind of asynchronously happening. And as soon as user 2 opens its status, it will just first read from its metadata, which is synchronized with the server behind the scenes. And that's how they'll read the list. So that was a first attempt at this design, but does it somewhat make sense, or I hope?
So where is the story ID being used in this?
In this one, I'm going with the idea that when the user posts is stored in the database, I will have the story ID here, user ID, story ID, and the links to the elements of the story. Like story 1, I'm showing here, right? I'm thinking like I'll have something like U1, S1.
So I'm thinking maybe the background observer thread, which is there, like when it does the query, does it query like, I don't think it gets only the change. So probably it does a query like, say, select star from this database where
I think
user ID is equal to the contact.
No, what I had in mind. What I had in mind is this is more like a polling
order
thing,
by
right?
the time, and then get the top 5 for the last.
Not top 5,
top
right?
5 story IDs maybe. And then for each of the story ID, it will again go and query the database and ask, okay, for this story ID, give me the up till
top
5, up to 5 max videos or pictures which has been posted.
No, top 5 won't work, right?
Thinking.
Top 5 won't work, right? Because like we want, it's not like a news feed where I want like some top, right? It's more like anything that has, let's say if everybody in my contact list posted a story, I don't want top 5, right? I want everybody's update if it's within 24-hour window. So I am thinking that this is more like a trigger, that pattern, that anytime a new story comes in to my shard, right, then it should capture it. So, or to minimize the number of hits, of course, you can optimize this, right? I don't want to keep hitting the database, again and again. So I can do it like every, let's say, a certain period of time, 5 minutes or something. But it's more like a polling feature and it can't do top 5, right? Then it will miss the stories. Right?
So, so if it will be 5 minutes, then it will create delay also, right? Can't it will make like event driven, like means
event driven is something I was thinking, but then I thought if I go make it event driven, how will it will be a lot of hits, like continuous hits to the database, right? Like if I have back to back something coming to my shard, can I optimize this? Like, can I do something around the batch idea? I had
Can we create some queue in between, right?
Queue is a good idea, that it will keep filling and then read the queue, maybe.
Yeah, either means the event can be triggered at the time when data is entered in database, or it can be put in some queue also.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the first thought in mind, but as I was talking now, I thought it will be a lot of traffic. So, okay. So that's how we are saying that we are going to monitor any new stories coming in. And then this idea I was using for building, pre-generating the updates and keeping the user side updated. Any other thoughts on this?
Can you explain more about these updates after builder, how you are building these updates?
Yeah, so I was thinking that I have this update builder component. What this will do is it will basically read this table, this key value store I'm having, so that to know what are my contact, who is all in my contact list, right? And then it is basically communicating with these databases, these shards, to pick up the updates that happened. So for example, in this case, I said user 1, user 2, and C1, right? So update builder will say, okay, U1 has C1 and U2 in its contact list. So I need to update the queue, right, of user 1 with the updates I'm getting from these databases for C1 and U2. Let's say U3 also posted an update, right, or story, which went into here in this database. Because U3 is not in my contact list, it won't add the update of that in my queue, user 1 queue, basically. So in other words, it's reading those shards and it's pre-generating the queues for each user. That's what I was going with. And it is also contacting this database to find out the contact list. But of course, like, I think I also feel this is a first iteration of the design, but the recent update builder, I need to optimize that, how it can optimize this path of hitting the database, because I don't want to hit, I want to reduce these hits. Maybe I can collect all the updates and then have another component which sifts through so that I can get all the information from these databases one shot. And then I can contact this table here and build these queues. Does that help? Or
yeah, actually, one more thing also, I was thinking that if it is trying to find out, right, and all the contact list to if there are any updates, it's wasting time, right? Suppose if there are updates, it's good. Cycles were spent, I mean, for a good reason. But suppose there are no updates and it is going through a long list, so it's just waste, right?
Yeah, true. Maybe I should get first updates and then refer to the contact list table then, because
it depends on the usage, right? If you're based on the user behavior and the pattern, you should change. Like initially, not much users will be updating that, right? So if you keep running the service, then it may not be of that use. But if you see that more people are trying to see the statuses, then it's better to pre-populate it and send it.
Yeah. It's kind of make it a little dynamic, right?
Make it dynamic. And also most of this is, time-based. So you need to create a kind of like first in, first out, like like queues with expirable queues, which will automatically fall off the pipeline.
Yes. Actually, on that note, I have something that I didn't capture here and I wanted to bring up in the discussion, that like here I said I also want to maintain a timestamp, right? Like you said, and if it expires, it should just drop from the queue. But the important thing here is that anything that gets expired, right? We also don't want to keep it in our media, right? Not just in the timelines. We also want to delete it from our backend databases.
Right? No, in the content delivery network.
Yeah. So I think that is another thing that right now in my design I haven't captured, but that can be a very important thing about how to optimize that, deletion part. One way is I was thinking like I have these queues, right, which are maintaining this. But the same entry can be in multiple
the way
queues.
They do that, the way they do that is when you're uploading it, right? So you're uploading it via you'll send a message to a queue, and that queue has a timer. So, and then automatically once the queue time expires, it will automatically tell the CDN that this file is or link is no longer valid, and all the links are expired or periodically. So 2 ways. It's like a RAM, like when you have a RAM which is outside the time cache, like garbage collection. So once the time has expired, automatically it will clean it up from whichever one.
I think my question is also about what you said, right, about automatic cleanup. That makes sense, but that is handling the CDN's like level, right? Like it will clean up from the CDN. But my question is that once it cleans up from the CDN, if I still have that entry in this queue, right, in this user queue, that entry will become invalid, right? Then how do I update that? Like 2 sites, right? Two places where I need to update this.
So from what I think, if I'm here, right, in this situation, when I'm uploading the content first time, right?
Yeah.
So at that time itself, when I upload it, I will have the link to the CDN, correct?
Yes.
And then I'll put a timer there.
Yes.
Correct. And then the timer will say, keep this content for 24 hours or 48 hours, correct?
Right.
And then at that point, I have to monitor, I'll have a service which will monitor that one, timers, and do the cleanup. And when it's doing the cleanup, it will clean up not only CDN, but also this
these
server, recent updates or anything like that. So that job will run every hour or every minute or every 5 minutes and look for anything that's in there and clean it up. So you don't have to worry.
Something like I right now have a queue monitor, but it will be a bigger, broader one. Like, you know, what you're saying is it will clean up from CDN and this queue.
Yes, it will. So, and if someone wants to design that, you can just say that, call it a monitor, and that will trigger services to do the cleanup or invalidate CDN.
Yes, yes, got it.
That way, this design will still be applicable and you'll clean it up.
Right. Correct. Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts on this?
I think there is one thought. I don't know, is it correct? So when goes to CDN, internally it will be in S3, right? S3 will have a live example. We use in AWS or something. There is a life cycle policy. Like if you have a 24 hours, you can set it up. Then automatically the file got deleted. And there is you said there is another queue or something, right? Maintained. So there is a dependency mechanism. If the file is automatically deleted from the queue, it will be also deleted. So there is no need of a separate service to be maintained. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is related to S3 feature, right?
Yeah.
So you can say that
generic. Yeah.
We want to create a generic one. And if they ask for specifics, then you can say that they'll do that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, not S3, it is most of the cloud services, like will have a storage services will have a life cycle policy. Like if you
I think it's more of a high level if we were to make it generic. We are talking about this dependency, right? In both the ideas. So I think as long as we can articulate it, whether taking specific examples or a general principle, I think that should cover it up. Okay. Anything else before we move on to the other next one?
Yeah, one thing I want to bring is the updater, right? If we can go into little bit detail of how it's building, where it's building, and because imagine WhatsApp has, 500 million users, right? Or 500 million users, and out of 500 million users, you have like 100 million updates. And then each contact has at least, 500 contacts, right?
Okay.
How big will this be? Like, how can we scale this? And is it really realistic for the compute that you do and the value? That's what I'm thinking. Like, I know updater service will good. When you open it, you will see it immediately, which is what we need. But I don't know, the compute that it needs to do that will be a lot. That how to optimize it.
No, that's a very that's the important one, and I think that's the core of this feature, right? That how do you optimize that? And in my view, I mean, I would love to hear other people's thoughts, but this is where I was thinking of this pre-feed, pre-generation idea, because if we try to do all this when user tries to open the status, contacting the database, checking who is in my contact list, getting their stories, checking which ones are valid, and then rendering them, to me, that sounds like a...
No, that is, yeah, then after you open, after 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes, you will see the updates. By time
not 2-3 minutes, I mean, you just see right away, right? When you just open the status, you see
I
the
mean,
update.
If you want to do that real time, right, it will take a lot of time. So you have to pre-populate it. So that's what you're doing. But how does it do is, like, it's kind of like Facebook newsfeed, right?
Right, so, exactly.
So the newsfeed, what it does, it actually pre-computes based on each user, and there's the same logic applies here.
Right.
And if someone knows exactly how WhatsApp is doing, or maybe it's the same what Instagram and others are doing, right?
I mean, that's what the same logic I went with here. Like, just like newsfeed pulls the, the followers list, and then it tries to pull it, the updates and rank them and store in each user queue. That's the idea I went with. But if anybody is aware of any other, ideas, or please feel free to chime in.
I don't know if I missed the topic discussion a little bit sometimes. So you guys already discussed. So when you upload a file, and then we know when, I mean, there'll be a database we maintain, right? So instead of pull, it can actually do a push mechanism, right? Push all the these files into a different client, update into the client side as well, right?
Right. That's what I'm thinking, user side metadata, that it will basically, because pull will be, it depends, right? I was going with a push model here because behind the scenes, server will just keep, the data ready and push it on the user side, for it to be ready, and then just render it. But of course, push versus pull is always a interesting, discussion there. In general, in Facebook type stuff, right? Like newsfeed, where we are having like, so many followers and each person is posting, let's say, multiple updates. Here we know that each person within 24 hours is having only one story, right? So from that perspective, I'm thinking even if you have, let's say, 100 contacts or 500 contacts, at the max you're talking about, per user rendering that much information, right? So I was thinking like push model might be okay to have it ready. But that was my thought.
So let's do a trade-off between push and pull, right?
Yeah.
In a pull model, right?
Right.
In pull model, it's almost like real time, but it's so what we will do is each user will create a story and upload it, and the story will be ready, right? If I'm a user 1, and then I'm user 2, and user 1 is my friend, right? So when I open my application, I have like 10 users in my application, right? Out of that 10, only user 1 has created an update, correct?
Okay.
So when I open, it will go and realistically, and it will say if any of the 10 has updates, right? So user 1 has updates, so that will come in my status feed, correct? So that way, only the active ones will come.
No, but I'm concerned about that when you said, right, that, okay, when you come online or check the WhatsApp and you go and see that, okay, user 2 says user 1 is in my list, right? But this check itself, that who is in my list, requires a trip to this table, and it also requires a trip to the, your shard, right, to pull the story for that user and then to render it. So I was thinking that is a time, that will add to the latency when you want a quick, like in that way, pull may not be, like you don't want to do all this work when the user hits status, right? Because it is going to take time, all this rendering. And especially imagine if 10 people or 50 people in my contact list uploaded a story, right?
Yeah.
Then I have to, and the stories are uploaded on shards. So I was thinking that this is all very like latency driven, that if I have to do all this work, like more like on demand.
Yeah. What I think is some lightweight, you know, metadata can be created at the server side.
Yes, yes.
So that it will be just pointers to pointers.
Yes, exactly.
But nothing drastic. Like if I have 10 users, so it will be flagged true or false. Is update true or false, right?
True, true. Yeah, you don't want to pull the actual data at this
You
time.
don't want to pull any actual data.
Yes.
But at real time when you're doing it, because what if, you know, you have 10 or 20 friends, right? Out of that, 2 have unfriended you, or, you know, they are not in service, or they removed you.
Okay.
So then whatever you build, right, that may not be true.
No, in that case, I think, let's say this is also similar to the situation that you are on the status link, right? And you are seeing updates from 5 people in your contact list. And just when you are on that screen, let's say another person in your contact list pushed an update, right? Pushed a story. Now you suddenly want to bring that story, you know, update that view, sort of. So it's similar, right? What you're saying is 2 people in your contact list, let's say, you know, they went away, or, you know, the story got expired. Now you just want to, let's say, remove that from your list. So even in that
case, it is in the viewed state, right? If once you viewed it, so in the metadata where, so supposing user
viewed is actually a little different definition here in WhatsApp. Viewed means when you have opened that story versus when you are viewing that list, right? If you are viewing just that list, that user 1, user 2 till user 5.
Once you have seen that. So if I'm user 1, I'm user 2, I saw user 1 story, then user 1 will be in the viewed one.
Yeah, but right now we haven't covered view part, right?
Okay. So in that case, yes.
Yeah, sure. And also push versus pull, I think if we really want to go, you know, I think the other concerns to look at that is about the server and client connections, right? Like for push, you want to keep that open so that server can keep, you know, pushing information once it has it. Versus pull, I think is just more like, okay, when the client asks for something, then you create a connection. So that is another level of, I think, detail if somebody really wants to go that route.
Yeah, I feel you should also take into phone's memory and phone's battery, right?
Yes.
Because if you keep on polling for statuses, so your phone battery may die.
That might die.
So take that into account. It's always the case, right? When you want to get push notifications for emails versus pull notifications. So there's always an option in Outlook where you can say what you want based on the phone. If you keep on say push notification and you get like 1,000 notifications, then your phone will die.
Right.
Out here, it may be at least the messages that you get on WhatsApp, it is a push notification. Right. But statuses, I feel it should be a pull notification. It should only, because not everyone clicks on the statuses, but messages you want to see it.
Sure. So I think what I'm gathering from your design is this is fine as long as we keep pointers to the information, not the actual, and we use a pull notification because this is ready to use, right? So once we have a pull, then we can render this quickly, and we don't even have to pay the cost of push with respect to the cell phones, you know, usage model. And we are also not pulling the actual data right now. It's just the references.
This is just the references. Only one caveat we should mention is there is a cost of the compute of recent updates. If no one is using it, then it is like a lost update. But you should say the trade-off, whether you want quick updates at the client side when he pulls it, whether or you know, do some server side computation for faster access.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things of system designs and systems like this is you always go with trade-offs, right? And what are the use cases you have? There is no like one size fits all that will serve everything. So you have to just be careful about what is.
So for what you can mention is in the since the compute is infinite for us, at least we don't have any limitations of compute. We have unlimited machines, at least because we are a very super rich company. So we will do this. If we are not that, then we will pay the cost of client, doing real-time updates.
And I think it's not even about, whether you have resources or not. To me, when we talk about these optimizations, it is about making optimal use of what you have, right? It's like you have like $100 and you're like, I don't care about, $20. It's like I have 100. But it's like, are you really making good use of what you have? Otherwise, you're just going to add resources, right? Let's say, even if we are talking about compute, even if you have that affordability to add more compute, it's not a good design if you don't use your existing compute well. Right?
That's true. If you don't use the right algorithm, something that takes like log of O of n versus O of n square, or n cube, then you're not making good use of it. That is 100% good point.
Right. Yeah. So any questions on this? I think we have just few minutes left. Maybe we can quickly talk about some other aspects of the story here. I didn't draw the other two parts, but maybe we can just talk through it. So we talked about first two. So playing a user story, right? The point where we are right now is that, let's say you are on your status screen and you see two of your contacts have posted a story. Now we are talking about that you click on one of the users' story and it starts playing. Let's say if they uploaded 5 elements and it just plays 5 one after another. And you can stop it at any point. And when you open it again, it will resume from the same offsets. So maybe I can again start with just some pointers I have in mind and we can refine it. So things I was thinking about it, this is like a download feature, right? Till now, we were only keeping references. Now we are actually pulling data. So let's say I have user 2 in my contact list, and that user 2 is also in 10 other people's contact list, right? So if I pull a story, there can be some logic where one thing is caching, right? So that I cache that user story. And then when other users who also have that user 2 in their contact list wants to play that, then that's readily available. So that was one idea I had about caching and reusing that cache data for rendering that same story to other users. And the other thing was thinking from the API, this resume point of view, that I have to make sure that this will vary for every user, right? If I only have watched 2 out of 5 elements of your story versus another person in your contact list has watched the full story, that will differ, right? So I need some way to store this, that user 1 has watched till 2 stories.
That will be done at the client side itself most of the time.
Right.
At least in this scenario, unless you're doing some videos where you watch it from multiple devices, then you need to update that offset in the cloud, like if you're watching some Netflix or Amazon Prime. But in this scenario, you're local, you're watching something and you're paused at 5-second mark, that will be stored in your local. So next time when you open, it will be there. Right. So the play user and the pause is at the client side. Consumer side, user 1, this is all at the publisher side, right?
No, but even play, right? First time when I pull the user story, it has to come from the CDN or...
Yes, it has to come from CDN, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
That's a different API. So we can also look at APIs, right?
Yeah.
How many APIs would be needed?
Yeah, exactly. Like upload. In general, correct. Upload here, display user is another one. View recent updates is another API.
And then backend recent updaters and observators. Couple of APIs there.
Right.
And
each of these components,
observer, updater,
right.
And database or key store. We can have this. Couple of
Right. I think this is good.
So one question I have is, if we have CDN, we still use cache? I mean, is it redundant? Is it not redundant, or we keep different information?
Even in CDN, they may be hot cache, right? So similar to what?
Okay.
So if more people, if some messages, or not in this scenario, but if sometimes when you forward the same WhatsApp message multiple times, you will see this message has been forwarded multiple times, right? So those messages are kept in hot cache. So if supposing the same message is sent in a different geographic location, then it will be cached there.
Also, I think CDN, I think if you're going through a load balancer, probably people will cache and load balancer as well.
Yes. Memcache, or I don't know, something similar. Not Memcache, but I don't know if there's any for CDN images. Is there for Memcache? It's more like a
application
cache, or data like a product catalog kind of thing. But for CDN, I think it will be in the CDN cache itself.
I think if you use like HA proxy or F5 or kind of load balancer, I think that will have automatically inbuilt caching. Like
yes. Akamai.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what else do we have? So here I also had that. Now I was getting into, more like the status update sort of thing, that once you view, like once you are able to play a user story completely, then it should move to the viewed update section. And then you can always reply to any element of the story. I think these might warrant their own discussion, but one thing that came to my mind as I was drafting these requirements is this thumbnail. So when you view stories, when you see the recent updates, right, that let's say Dippy has posted a story and, another user has posted, you only see a thumbnail of that, some story. So when you're uploading this, right, this can be another refinement. I mean, it's not something that jumps out of my mind right away, but I think we do this even in Facebook or Instagram. When we post a picture or a video, we generate thumbnails. So this can be a good pattern to keep in mind anytime we are talking about uploads.
So it will create a GIF, right?
Yeah, it will create a small GIF, and the storage requirements for thumbnails are very different from the actual video or file. And also the reads of thumbnails are much higher, right? Usually, like at least in
generally the thumbnails are stored along with the actual where you have user ID and content 1, content 2, it's there. Correct. Only when someone clicks on the thumbnail, then it will go to the reel. So that will be very small, like 5 MB or 2 MB.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the concept that, if you bring that up, that's also interesting one, how the storage requirements are different and how, the read write, even the read ratio is different, right? A lot of times, and interestingly, this principle applies to even Netflix, YouTube, right? You have all these thumbnails and you get so many reads for thumbnails because you're just browsing, but the actual video read is lesser, smaller than thumbnails.
Yeah, and the previews, right? Even in YouTube, you might not have clicked it, but as you hover over it, you will see the first few minutes. Or
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So that is, I don't know how YouTube does that, or Netflix. Maybe they do send that immediate preview, because sometimes you can see the whole thing without even clicking it in YouTube, right?
As you hover over it, it starts playing something. Yeah.
It's like a silent read without even clicking on hover.
Maybe something like, they keep a snippet of it, something, I don't know.
Yeah, does anyone know how that happens in this group? How Amazon or Netflix or YouTube does hovering? Or does it actually call the real service, real CDN for that full flow? I don't know.
I doubt it will call it full flow, because that is a big pull, right? Whereas you're only rendering, let's say, a trailer or a 2-minute, like a snapshot of that.
Or what I think happens is, once you upload the video, right, it uploads in different formats and different content types, correct?
Yeah.
So when you're hovering over it, it takes the lowest content and lowest format resolution, and then it just gives
but
you.
Even if you consider the lowest resolution, like what is the point of the complete content being available, right? You're only playing, let's say, out of a 2-hour movie, you're only showing 2 minutes. Even if you keep the lowest resolution, you're just wasting 98% of, like, if you're only keeping 2% of it, for example.
No, for some devices, if the bandwidth is low, you generally do that.
Okay.
But I saw that sometimes I saw a whole video of YouTube without even clicking it.
Oh, whole video. Okay.
Yeah. So from there, I'm guessing that they're using the lowest format, and so that it's not taking so much bandwidth, but at the same time, it's sending everything.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's just my guess.
I think they start buffering, right? So when you play some video, right, so it starts buffering that, and they're sending the bytes constantly. So it might be stored somewhere locally in your memory, and that's how they are generating those thumbnails when you just hover your pointer on that bar.
So read ahead buffering.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're scrolling, before even you go to the next, same thing Facebook also, right? It plays the videos. I think there's some new technology.
I think in terms of video buffering is in general a common one. Of course, with all these Zoom and stuff, right? That when you're having real-time video conferencing, that's a different ball game. But in general,
what I have here. So what I have observed is that basically those thumbnails are not immediately available. So when the video starts playing, really it takes like 30 seconds to 1 minute to have all those thumbnails. So after that, if I just like hover over the thing, right, it just keep on showing the thumbnails. So I think it is like kind of maybe like set of thumbnails that they get it, as you said, like low resolution, right? So might be it is low resolution only, but maybe like thousands of thumbnails they get it really at the start of when they play the video, basically.
I feel it's other way too, because maybe there is a background thread that running on the app or the client that continuously update the local cache for whatever the hot thumbnail they have on the Netflix. And once the user hover on the particular thread, particular thumbnail, it checks whether I do have a preview or not, and it automatically plays the preview. Because what I observed is like if you see on TV, let's say high definition TV, you don't see the quality degradation there. The quality is almost as good as when you play it. So it continuously looks for those preview data in the background and update the local cache.
Yeah, I think we have some ideas here, right? How about like, this itself is each of these components, I think if we try to deep dive, it becomes a, kind of a good discussion in itself. So maybe we can just take that up and look it up and discuss, in Discord, or if somebody has a proper like details, we can have another session on it. So that can be, But yeah, good. I think I always enjoy these, all the new ideas and thoughts. So I just wanted to wrap up today's session here. I hope it was valuable, and my attempt of picking this idea was in general to come up with a design, breaking it up, and then going back to how some of the fundamental problems that we have here, right, in system design that show up again and again. I think if we really master these, and these themselves to me represent patterns, right, to some extent, and any new system design problem that comes in, for example, Facebook Live, initially I didn't have it here. I only had YouTube and Netflix. So when Facebook Live comes in, I can think of it as, okay, maybe I can pull ideas from video streaming but I also see how it's different from YouTube and Netflix. We are talking about live streaming here, right? So to me, this is how I have started approaching system design, because otherwise it's just too broad. I mean, I can just keep doing it and there's no end to the systems and I can't correlate. So this was just my attempt to correlate some of the basic fundamental problems with anything new that comes in to my mind. But yeah, like I said, I mean, moving forward, if the discussion we were having right now, if somebody wants to take that up for the next time, or if you want, I think this designing the holistic systems, things like this, which are basically, we use them in all these, Facebook and Twitter, like Kafka, messaging queues, and these itself can become good questions. So yeah, I think that was all I had for today. I'll stop recording and then we can have more discussion on the pattern here. Thank you.